editor of the local newspaper, I have found that my readers have always been interested in the adventures of our neighbors, especially stories from the first settlers from years ago. Today I'm meeting Ole Knudsen, Evan Railson, and Eric Copperwood, who I understand had quite an interesting elk hunt during the winter of '61.
Oh, come on in, Al, come on. You must be the editor from the local paper. Evan Lawson is your name then?
Yes?
Yeah, my name is Ole Knudsen. I have my good friends here, Eric Copperwood and Evan Railson.
Well, it's nice to meet all of you, and thank you for meeting with me today.
Would you like a little cup of coffee then?
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Careful, it's a little hot.
Oh, yeah. I'm hoping that you're going to be willing to share some stories with me today. From the first years of
we have
the community.
lots of stories, but the question is, how much time do you have?
Wow, you could be here for days, especially when Ule starts talking.
Well, I heard that you three had quite an elk hunt some 12 miles west of here a few years back.
Oh, yeah, that was quite a hunt we had. And where do we begin this story?
Well, it was during the winter of '60-'61. I remember that because trapping wasn't too good that year, and we were worried about having enough food.
I don't think we had gotten that much snow since we came over. And wasn't it also warm for February?
Yeah, a little bit warm, but as I remembered, it got a cold snap and froze, and there was plenty of snow to ski on. And I was, of course, really good skier and went really fast. The rest of these boys, they couldn't learn to keep up.
You know I can ski circles around you.
All joking aside, that's when we decided to go after this elk herd we'd heard about.
Huh. Did I also hear that you had a dog with you?
Yeah. Evan here, he had this great elk hound, a Norwegian elk hound. That elk hound wasn't afraid of anything.
We started out, and 6 or 7 miles west we found tracks after a herd of elk that had just recently passed.
Our hearts were pounding pretty hard because it looked like a pretty big herd.
Yeah, we followed that elk trail for miles, way out past Munson Lake, 12, 13 miles past Schwinghammer Hill.
I didn't think we were ever going to catch up to them. Then we come over the hill, and
there they were, a herd of at least
60 elk? How do you hunt such a large herd?
Boy, you turned Evan's dog loose. That Norwegian elk hound right after them.
God, out on the lake the going was easy, but on the north side toward which they were running, there was deep snow.
the dog chased one of the bulls so long he got so tired, and then he turned around to defend himself.
I was the first one to come up to them, and all I had was my old muzzle-loading shotgun, old shoot 'em all. And I moved as close as I dared to where the dog and the bull were fighting. Grabbed up my trusty shotgun, old Never Miss, aimed really carefully. I had to make sure I didn't hit that elk hound, and I shot.
Evan and I were quite a ways back, if I remember, and we could tell from that distance that that gun did not go off.
No.
The elk headed for only snorting and trying to tramp him under his hoofs.
But I had no time to think, so I grabbed old Never Miss by the barrel and I swung at that elk, hit him right in the forehead. I went 3 times, bonk, bonk, bonk. And all that happened was it splintered.
Did it stop him?
No, not a bit. But he went down to his knees, and then I had to really think hard and quick, and I grabbed him by the horn, and I just jumped right onto his back, reached in my back pocket, pulled out my trusty knife that I had been carrying with me all the way from Norway, stuck him right in the neck, and he thought he killed
That's
Ole.
when I got there. Bull tried to race himself with Ole still holding on, and I shot him.
Well, did you travel home that evening?
Oh no, we camped on an island that night, had a nice pile of firewood, kept us warm. But hey, why don't you tell them who the real hero was the next day?
Oh, sure. It was Evan's dog, the Norwegian elk.
Well, I suppose we have to be honest and say that the next morning Eric shot another nice elk.
Yeah, he did. And then what did we do? We built a sled, 2 sleds, because these were 2 huge elk. And we loaded them one on each sled, and then we took turns pulling. And of course, they pulled much better than I did. And we pulled those elk all the way back home, 12 miles on that sled.
No, that's a great story. My readers are just going to love it. So thank you so much, but I better get going.
Oh, we have more stories.
No, thank you, but that's enough for now. Thank
The next story is The Thank You Gift. Many early pioneer stories have been handed down from generation to generation. The following story is one of many that Doug Lesney's family handed down to him. Douglas, who is a wonderful storyteller, told this story at the 2012 annual celebration. Doug's great-grandfather was Evan Glesney, who was a cousin to Evan Railson. They settled in the area in 1860. Today we are again telling the story seen through the eyes of his great-grandmother, Kari Glesney. We begin this story in Evan and Kari's log cabin, which was a few miles from their next neighbor. Visiting Kari is Evan Railson's wife, Mattia.
It's been at least 2 weeks since we've seen each other. Oh, so good, Kari. My Evan has spoke to your Evan and shared the most frightful experience you had.
Mattia, I was here in the cabin all alone with Christine. Evan was some distance away cutting hay in the meadow.
Oh, that in the woods, the meadow over there by the woods.
Oh, yes, that's the meadow.
Yeah.
So you know he would have been unable to hear my calls for help.
Oh, Kari, tell me what happened. Oh, and you were just home alone with you and baby Christine? Tell me.
I had just finished baking bread and I had decided to wash some clothes. So I had carried the basket outside to hang on the line when I noticed that there was a man standing in the shade of the oak tree just south of here. And then I saw 3.
Did you recognize them?
No, but with Christine sleeping in her cradle, I quickly moved inside and I closed the door and I looked out the window.
Did they pass by?
No, they started moving toward the house and then I could see they were young Indian men.
Oh, what did they come to the door?
No, they just stood by the porch and were looking towards the window.
Did they look angry?
I couldn't tell, but I worked up the courage to go to the door. And when I opened it, they came up on the porch.
Oh, Kari!
Oh, yes, I wouldn't have been so concerned if I was alone. But with Christine sleeping, I just prayed she would stay quiet.
Oh, did they come into the house?
Well, I couldn't understand what they were saying, But one man took a step inside and pointed at the water jug. So I held it up just like this and let him see that it was empty. But I had just made 8 loaves of bread. So I picked up 3 and I offered them. And each man took a loaf.
Oh, dear Lord. Oh,
But then one of the men noticed Christine in her cradle. And he came over. He picked her up. And I thought to myself, they're going to steal my baby.
oh, poor Christine.
Oh, but Mattia, something strange happened. He held her and he gently stroked her hair and he played with her toes. And then he gently just put her back down without saying a word.
Well, please, Harry, tell me that they left then.
Oh, yes. They walked down past the oak tree.
Ah, well, you're so brave, and you must be just so relieved that this whole experience is behind you now.
Oh, but that's not the end of the story. 3 days later, Evan was at the meadow again checking on that hay.
Well, you're not going to tell me they came back.
Well, there was a knock at the door, and before opening it, I looked out the window.
And they were back, weren't they?
One man was standing under the oak tree. So I went over, and I opened the door, and there stood a young Indian woman.
Oh, what did she say?
Well, she just looked at me with this gentle look on her face, and then she put her left hand on mine, and we walked right over to Christine's basket. And then, with a smile that only another mother could smile, she gave me these. She had come back to say thank you.
The Great Race. Choosing land to homestead was an important decision, and apparently sometimes competitive. As you will see, sometimes family members were in competition for prime properties. There are different versions of this story, and we are basing this play on the version handed down to Doug Glesney. As this scene opens, Evan Glesney and his son Elmer are admiring the property along West Norway Lake that eventually became the Strand Brothers Farm. Evan Glesney's cousins, Evan and Andrew Railson, arrive. And now, for the rest of the story.
Elmer, my son, look at this wonderful land out here. We have rich farmland, a nice, very nice sheltered building site to build our house and our barn for our livestock, and look at all the water where you can go swimming.
It is beautiful. Pa, and the lake is definitely my favorite. I can't wait to go swimming anytime I want.
I just can't wait. We'll settle this tomorrow. We'll go to Litchfield and file our claim tomorrow.
Listen, Leslie and Elmer, what are you up to today?
Hello, Uncle Evan. Uncle Andrew.
Oh, hey, Elmer.
Evan and Andrew, just wondering what you're doing here. I mean, it's really good to see you. But the real question is, why are you here on our land?
We walked this property last week and are taking one last look before we claim it.
Huh.
Will be a perfect homestead for our family.
Evan and Andrew, we got us a little problem here. Elmer and I, we've been looking at this for a long, long time. You just got here now from Wisconsin, and you think you're going to get this? We're going to go file our claim right away.
Uncles, we have our hearts set on this place, and it will be awful if we can't have it. You must have other lands that you're looking at.
Elmer, we have looked at other land, but nothing compares with this spot.
Oh, we feel the same way, and we aren't going to give it up that easily, you know.
Pa, what are we going to do? We don't want Uncle Evan and Uncle Andrew to be mad at us.
Well, there must be some way we can settle this without our families fighting. We could thumb wrestle or draw straws.
Or flip a coin.
Oh, how about a race? Uncle Evan, you and my brother can have a foot race from here around that big oak tree in back. The winner gets the homestead.
Oh, I'm not so sure about that idea.
It sounds like a great idea. Evan, don't tell me you're afraid you might lose. You always said that you could beat me at anything.
Come on, Pa, you can do it. You could beat Uncle Evan if you ran backwards.
Well, I'm not so sure, son. You know, I got kicked by that horse last week, and my knee is still bothering me yet today.
Evan, the race hasn't even started and you're already making excuses.
Please, Pa, you can do it.
Oh, all right, I suppose. We'll give it a try.
Okay. We run to the oak tree and back. Whoever wins has the land.
All right, why don't you move to the starting line? Okay. On your mark. Get set. Go.
Run, Pa, run.
He's just saying the same. Wait a faster at the tree, Evan. You'll tire out.
Go, Pa, go. Go just halfway.
Stay with him, Evan.
Pa made it to the tree first. He made the turn.
Take him now, Evan. He's tiring. He's gaining on him, Elmer. He's gaining on him.
Go do it. Oh, no. Pa's slowing down. He's limping.
Here they come. Here they come. Way to go, brother.
I'm sorry, Pa. Oh, I'm sorry.
I did my best, son. I ran as fast as I could, but I think my knee gave out.
But Pa, what are you going to do now?
Don't worry, son. We're going to go north from here. We're going to find another lake better than this lake, and we'll call that Glesney Lake.
I think you should have had a wrestling match.
I think you're right. Wrestling, we're much better wrestlers than we are. Thanks, Ed. So a couple of things. One last chance on the potential on the drawing. And Sherry, if you need one, just hold your hand up and we'll get tickets over to you. A couple other things that I wanted to say. How many of y'all were at the county fair in Wilbur? Got a chance to see the booth that the association had at the fair? It was in the old log building. If you didn't, you missed a fine opportunity just to get a chance to see things that you may not always get that opportunity to have. And there's a good chance that we'll do it again next year. We have to be invited by the Historical Association to do that. But if they do, it's always nice to know if we've got people that don't mind sitting in the booth for a couple hours and helping man it and tell some stories. And I think that's mainly what it took, was just somebody to come and tell a couple of stories. So if you are interested, please let me know. I wanted to point out a couple other things. There's videos of these performances, and this one, the years past. If you go to our website, you'll find them on there. You want to watch them, sit and watch them at your leisure. Little pieces you want to look at again, especially if you're in the picture, you can just keep replaying it over and over again. The other place to go and find information is on our Facebook page, which is just, if you go on Facebook, if you're a Facebook person, search on Norway Lake and it'll come up. And when you do that, don't be afraid to share that to all your friends. It's important because it gets the word out about the programming that we do here. And that is always helpful. We're always looking for new individuals that want to join. You know, the membership's only $10, and that's good for your entire lifetime. You could give one of them to every one of your grandkids. They wouldn't even know it. The other thing I wanted to point out, over in front of the Interpretive Center is a trunk. And that trunk, the name on the trunk is Trulson. Trulson. And where that trunk came from was, I bought that at an auction sale, Archie Johnson's estate sale in Wilmer, some years ago, and didn't really have any idea where this trunk came from. And I've been looking here and there and looking here and there, and somebody came into the fair booth, took a picture of it, put it onto Facebook on the Norwegian genealogical page, and within minutes came back and said, here's a story about that trunk. And the individual that had that trunk, his name was Elif Trulson, and they moved here from Rice County, where he was a blacksmith, and they moved and they settled, and I believe it might be over probably where the Bendixson farmstead is, maybe. It was in that section, is where they settled in 1860s, late 60s.
Hey, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
They're passing the hat. What are they passing the hat for?
Which hat?
The offering.
Oh, we're making offering? That's a good thing. The offering, that just goes to support the endeavors of the organization. We're all about charitable donations here, because that's how we stay alive. So, anyway, back to my story about Ella Trulson. Thanks, Bob, for bringing it up so we know. Here, I'll just help that out. Did it go that way yet? We'll just help that right out. So Ella Trulson, they moved here, and that was an interesting part of the story. But then it got more intriguing, because we started looking back, and along with that story was the story of the blizzard of 1873. And Ella Trulson and 4 other individuals had gone to Kirkhoven, another little fledgling community at that time, and they left Kirkhoven, and I'll paraphrase the story. I could read it, but then I'd get in trouble. It takes a little longish on the reading side, but we'll just talk a little bit about it. So these 5 individuals left Kirkhoven that fateful day in 1873, and it was a fair sky and good sledding, and they were headed for home. They're headed for the homestead over here in section 35 of Norway Lake Township. They got as far up the road. They came up what is now County Road 7. As we knew it, was County Road was State Highway 104, and they got pretty near over. They were 40 crosses, and they ran up against a fence line. And the horses had gone the wrong way. Instead of making a right turn at the fork, they made a left. Remember, there wasn't tar roads then. There was barely trails. This was 1873. They got that far. They ran into a fence line. Snow was getting deep. The blizzard was on. You couldn't see anything. There were 5 people in the wagon. There were 2 ladies. There was a young man of 15 years of age. And then there was Elif and 1 other individual. They left the wagon. They bundled everybody up as best they could. They left the 2 ladies and the young 15-year-old gentleman, left them in the wagon, or in the sled, and they started walking, looking for somebody, looking for a cabin. And they walked and walked out in the blinding snow, and it was colder than cold. And finally they came upon a cabin and they stopped in, and sure enough, there was somebody home. They got in. Elif Trolson, whose name is on the trunk, he was well bundled up, and so he had no problem. He was cold, but he was fine. The gentleman that was with him lost all of his toes. 3 days the storm raged on. The wind blew and whistled, and the snow fell, and it was so bad they could not see. The morning of the fourth day, they awoke, and the sky had cleared, and they looked out, and not very far away from the cabin was the fence line. And on the fence line, at the fence line, was this sleigh with the team still tied to the sleigh. So they trudged out there best they could. Elif, remember, he was still in good shape yet. The owner of the cabin was okay. So they went out there thinking they would find nothing. And when they got there, the young man, the 15-year-old, he had perished, and one of the ladies with had perished, and the third one, sitting in the middle, they thought also had passed away till she rose her arm up. Still alive after 3 days, sitting out 3 days and 3 nights, sitting out on the prairie. And from there, they bound her up, carried her back to the cabin, not very far away, thawed her back out again, and she needed all kinds of surgery. And at the end of the day, she lost both her legs, and at least one arm, and possibly her other hand. But the story doesn't end there either. She was married. She had a couple children by this time, and after that time, she had several more children. And I think she lived a total of 38 years. And they left here just about the turn of the century and moved to Roseau County and re-homesteaded in Roseau County, where she is buried today. So that story, and you'll find that story, I know you'll find it in Carolyn Sawinski's book on the blizzards. It might also be in Gabriel Steeney's stories that Barb is selling over here as well. So that's the kind of stories that you find. That one, you'll learn about grasshoppers that we talked about last year. That's a very worthwhile thing. So I would encourage you to take a look at there's a history on top of the Trolson trunk that only talks about Elif Trolson and his arrival in this community and what he did. And if you want to read the rest of the story in more detail, I encourage you to pick up one of the books. The other place that I found it is on the Mankle website also. There's just a wealth of information out there that people have gone to great lengths to put together. And so I just want to let you know, so that if you're interested in that sort of thing, you can avail yourself of that and use that. What's coming up? Advent service in November. Remember that? We got the doors are open. Last year we had, 91 people, I believe, that we had in here? Capacity, I think, is 78. So we did really well, but the food was good. That's important. The service was fun. Everybody enjoyed themselves, so don't forget about that. And other than that, Ed, I'll turn it over to you. I appreciate you all coming.
Just a minute. Yeah, just a minute. I'm asking questions there first. That's my son talking, you see. Anyway, how did that trunk get over to my uncle's house?
Dad was asking, how did the trunk get over to well, I'm sure it started at Albert Johnson, which would have been Dad's uncle Albert. Archie and Dad were cousins. I have no idea how the trunk got there. Dad said, there's a trunk at the sale, you should go take a look at it. It might be some relative of ours. So I went to the sale and I spent what I thought was way more money than I should spend, but Dad had said this was a trunk from a relative of ours, so it must be important. So we got the trunk, but and we never knew anything more about it. We got it home, and we don't know until the county fair, until having that booth at the county fair. So it's all providential. You find out things where you least expect them to occur.
Here, in that storm, did the horses die or were they alive?
It never said. No, it's a good question. Doug asked, did the horses make it through the storm? It never did say. That I read, and I could have missed that too. So I'd encourage you, go read the whole story. Everyone, it's quite interesting.
There I met a figure disconcerting, the moon the greater glory could attain. The one I met was Nicolina's papa, armed with the meanest, most deserving cane. Oh, my knees, how they began to tremble. I tried to run, but there was not a chance. For in the woods, while on my knees I stumbled, the cane began to do a polka dance. Oh, I went home and wrote to Nicolina. There's not the slightest bit of hope in me. If you don't end me of this awful torture, I'll end it all by jumping in the sea. Oh, Nicolina, I answered in a hurry. Oh, darling Carl, don't be so unwise. Suicide is nothing but a dumbbell. Why don't you wait until the old man dies? So now I wait, and so does Nicolina, to see the old man kick the bucket soon. And on his grave we're planting for remembrance the cane he used upon me 'neath the moon.